Welcome. If you're trying to cut through all the noise, really grab the key info on complex topics without getting totally swamped, well, you're in the right place.
Exactly. That's what we aim for.
Today, we're doing a deep dive in something pretty significant. This recent intersection of American business power and Saudi Arabia, centered around a visit by former President Trump.
Yeah, a high-powered delegation went along too. Our goal here isn't just surface-level news. We want to get into the core dynamics.
Right.
Who is involved, what deals were actually discussed, investment policy, and importantly, what are the potential knock-on effects? Tech, defense, trade. It covers a lot.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Riyadh. Sounds like it wasn't just some quiet backroom meeting.
Oh, definitely not. Reports paint a picture of a very prominent welcome for the former president. Prince Mohammed bin Salman was there, lots of Saudi royals, very visible. But at the same time, maybe even more strategically important for a discussion, there was another meeting happening nearby, a parallel gathering of top American business leaders.
Ah, okay. So while the official greetings are happening, you've got this room full of really influential U.S. execs talking shop. Who are we talking about? Who were the key players in that room?
It was quite the lineup. Elon Musk was there, obviously representing Tesla, SpaceX, but also his AI company, XAI,
Yeah.
his brother Kimball Musk, too. And Antonio Gracias, he's private equity, but also has connections to the Trump administration previously, shows that mix of finance and politics.
And beyond the Musks, some other huge names in tech specifically.
Absolutely. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, Ruth Porat from Google, Jensen Huang, head of NVIDIA, and the company making all those crucial AI chips.
Yeah, vital.
And Andy Jassy from Amazon. Their presence alone really tells you something about Saudi Arabia's growing importance, both as a market and, a source of capital for big tech.
But it wasn't just tech people, was it? What other industries were represented?
No, it was pretty broad. You had the oil industry, obviously, given it's Saudi Arabia. Banking, finance folks were there. Private military contractors, too. And even big consumer names like Coca-Cola and Uber sent people. Plus, and this is critical, the big U.S. defense contractors. Halliburton, Northrop Grumman, Boeing, they were all part of this delegation.
Wow, that really paints a picture. And the reports mentioning Magier hats alongside traditional Saudi keffiyehs. That kind of underscores the specific political flavor of this whole thing, doesn't
It
it?
certainly points to a unique context, too.
Okay, so let's get to the meat of it. What actually came out of these meetings? What kind of investments are we talking about, scale-wise?
The big number floating around is $600 billion. Planned investments flowing both ways between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia.
$600 billion.
Yeah, it's a massive figure. And it has implications across, multiple key sectors. It's not just about money. It signals a potentially big strategic move for Saudi Arabia, using U.S. business know-how to diversify, maybe become a global tech hub, especially in AI.
Okay, let's break that huge number down a bit. I understand a pretty large chunk of that is earmarked for defense.
That's right. Around $142 billion, reportedly, for what's described as state-of-the-art warfighting equipment and services, coming from over a dozen U.S. defense firms.
So a strengthening of that security relationship.
It certainly looks that way. A continuation, maybe even an expansion.
And then there's the tech side, particularly this heavy focus on AI. What were the big announcements there?
Well, one standout was Saudi Arabia's Data Vault. It's a tech and infrastructure company. They committed $20 billion specifically for building AI data centers and related energy infrastructure in the United States.
In the U.S. Okay, so that's Saudi money funding AI infrastructure here.
Exactly. AI data centers need huge computing power, specialized facilities. Data Vault's investment shows they're serious about building that foundation.
And it wasn't only Data Vault making tech pledges, right? Other big names got involved.
Correct. Companies like Google, Oracle, Salesforce, AMD, Uber, too, they collectively committed something like $80 billion.
$80 billion, wow.
Yeah, for what they're calling cutting-edge transformative technologies. That's in both the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. So think cloud computing, AI development, applications. It's broad.
This AI focus really jumps out, especially with people like Elon Musk and Sam Altman actually being there in the room. Saudi Arabia's interest seems to be ramping up fast.
That's a key takeaway, I think. They are clearly pushing hard to become a major player, a serious investor in the whole AI space.
Yeah.
Getting FaceTime with Musk, Altman, plus people from Google, NVIDIA, Amazon. It sends a strong signal about their ambitions.
And Musk himself, juggling Tesla, SpaceX, and now XAI. He seems kind of central to this whole emerging picture.
He does. Having both Elon and Kimball Musk there covers a lot of ground. And Elon's talked about wanting to integrate AI everywhere across his companies, maybe even working with the U.S. government. It just shows how pervasive AI is becoming, how strategic.
Right.
Plus, the reports mention this, like rabid race for funding in AI right now. So these potential Saudi investments, they could be particularly appealing, you know?
Makes sense. Now, let's pull back a bit from the specific deals. There's obviously a wider political and economic context here, isn't there? This Saudi-U.S. investment forum happening alongside the Trump visit.
Absolutely. The timing is significant. This forum gave Saudi officials a direct line to engage with an administration, or at least figures associated with it, known for its distinct views on trade policy. Tariffs, for example.
So an opportunity for lobbying, potentially, to shape future trade discussions.
It seems likely, yes. A chance for Saudi Arabia to make its case on economic interest directly.
The reporting also mentioned something about a high-profile infusion of big business into the levers of political power within Saudi Arabia itself.
That's a critical point to keep in mind. These huge economic deals are happening within a specific political environment. The reports link this to State Department warnings about, well, significant human rights issues.
Right, and it connects to broader concerns mentioned in reporting about alleged corruption surrounding the Trump administration and his Middle East visit. We're just report what the sources say here, of course.
Of course. Just laying out the connections drawn in the reports.
And that leads into the connections highlighted between these events and the Trump family's own business activities in the region.
Yes, the sources we looked at mention Eric Trump's recent announcements, a Trump hotel planned for Saudi Arabia, a Trump golf course in Qatar, other possible projects in Saudi and Oman too. It shows ongoing business development in the Middle East by the family.
And then there's Jared Kushner's firm, a very large investment reported there from Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. Remind us what that fund is.
A sovereign wealth fund is basically state-owned. Saudi Arabia uses theirs, the Public Investment Fund, or PIF, to invest the country's reserves. The reported $2 billion investment from the PIF into Kushner's private equity firm is definitely notable.
Especially given who oversees that fund.
Right, the Crown Prince himself. It underscores the high-level nature of that particular investment.
The reports even detail this interaction about Qatar offering something related to Air Force One and the former president's reaction.
Yeah, the reporting suggests Trump dismissed concerns about Qatar reportedly offering to replace Air Force One, called it a great gesture, said it would be stupid to turn down. It kind of highlights a certain perspective on these kinds of international offers, financial or otherwise.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The reports also track Elon Musk's changing relationship with the Trump administration, his initial involvement, then plans to step back.
It's an interesting timeline presented in the sources, yeah. First, there was the reported rollout of this AI system, sometimes called DOGE internally, across government agencies. The idea was, streamlining things, cutting costs. But then later reports said Musk planned to significantly pull back his time with the administration. Partly it was suggested to focus more on Tesla, especially with reports of maybe declining earnings at the time.
He did have an official, though limited, role for a while, didn't he?
Yes, a special government employee. There are rules about how long you can do that per year. Even though he apparently planned to spend less time in D.C., some White House sources reportedly thought he'd still be influential.
And this ties into concerns raised about AI and surveillance.
Right. Concerns were reported about Musk and this U.S. DOGE service potentially accumulating tools for, well, a sprawling domestic surveillance system using AI. Again, these are concerns raised in the reporting we reviewed.
At the same time, there were suggestions the administration was looking to reduce regulatory hurdles for AI, even things like intellectual property.
Yeah, that's another thread. The idea of maybe stripping away barriers, including IP protections, to accelerate AI development. This connects back to an earlier huge $500 billion AI venture proposal attributed to Trump,
Which faced funding issues.
reportedly, yeah, partly because of the tariff situation impacting potential international investment.
And Musk seemed to weigh in on IP himself.
There was a post on X attributed to him that seemed supportive of abolishing intellectual property laws, or at least questioning them strongly in the context of AI.
And this culminated in some controversy around the Copyright Office.
It did. The head of the U.S. Copyright Office was reportedly fired shortly after their office released a report looking into AI and copyright issues. Subsequently, some House Democrats called for an investigation into whether Musk might have had undue influence on that decision.
Okay, quite a lot of interconnected pieces there. So let's try to pull it all together. If you had to summarize the core takeaways from this deep dive, what stands out most?
I think the main thing is this clear alignment, this convergence of big economic interests, especially in AI and defense between top American executives in Saudi Arabia, really crystallizing around this Trump visit. You see it in the massive investment deals announced. But it's crucial to remember this is all happening within a very specific political environment, raising questions about, trade policy, human rights concerns mentioned in reports, and potential influence on things like AI regulation and IP. It's a complex mix.
It really is. So as our listeners mull this over, what's a final thought you'd leave them with? Something to chew on.
Maybe consider the really long-term picture. What are the implications of these huge multi-billion-dollar investments where big tech, the defense industry, and global politics are getting so deeply intertwined? What does it mean for how technology developed globally, for international relations? And maybe most importantly, what questions should we be asking about finding the right balance between chasing these massive economic opportunities and navigating the ethical and strategic complexities that come with these kinds of powerful global partnerships?